I've listened to The Beach Boys Today by the Beach Boys for a month.
And I listened to it today.
Nice. Welcome to Spin It, the Year of Redemption. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Spin It, the record ranking podcast for people who would rather be listening to music. I'm James, and with me is Connor, and it's a very special day.
We're at the beach.
We're at the beach.
Again.
No doubt, we're returning to the beach.
You know where we're not?
We're not in the year of discovery anymore.
Oh, I was going to say, we're not at the San Diego Zoo.
That's true, we are not. We are banning ourselves from the San Diego Zoo today because we're talking about the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
Everyone's favorite band that's been banned from the San Diego Zoo. John Stamos, Charles Manson, all of them, all the Beach Boys. So yeah, this is the first episode of our 5th year of podcast. And, you know, every year we kind of have a theme. The first year was just the year.
The year of figuring out what the heck we're doing.
Yeah. The second year was the year of vengeance because Connor wanted to get revenge on me for picks that I made.
For tanking all my picks.
Well, I didn't. I liked some of your picks, but that's besides the point because after the year of vengeance, we atoned for it with the year of healing, where we did a lot of cool albums and made a lot of repairs to our album sharing relationship. Then we did the year of discovery this past year.
This was a great year.
It was a great year, and we went for albums that were new, were exciting, or that we found in interesting ways. So at this point, we've done 208 episodes. We've talked about more than 200 artists over 4 entire years, and some have done really well, right? Especially some of those year of healing picks, and you brought a lot of things that were 9s for you and stuff. Some have done surprisingly well. Some have outperformed our expectations, but others have underperformed and done pretty badly and surprised us in the other direction. You know, some of those low scores are from artists we definitely expected to land higher. And for the year of redemption this year, I figured we'd take a handful of those artists that kind of got lower scores than we thought they would, and then we'll sprinkle them throughout the year and give them another shot, a second chance.
Still plenty of new music, but just a sprinkling of redemption.
Just a sprinkling of redemption, so we can see if we can get your scores up a little higher.
Are you a sprinkles guy? Like on donuts or ice cream?
Usually. They don't ever inform my decision.
Are those the main 2 uses of what is it? Ice cream, donuts, cupcakes? Those are like the 3 uses of sprinkles?
Cupcakes and cakes. There aren't very many uses for sprinkles, but the year of redemption will be the next one.
And Brussels sprouts if you're really adventurous.
Yeah, no. Nobody's that adventurous.
Anyway, ground rules.
So there's some ground rules for the year of redemption that we've set, because we don't want to go overboard with it. First of all, no triples. We're not tripling up on anybody.
No triples.
So Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Miley Cyrus, you're out. Sorry.
Well, Miley, hang on. We can make it. Every rule has its exception. Hang on.
Look, I don't know about a third Miley Cyrus episode. I don't know if I can handle it.
It's kind of funny that we didn't do a second Miley Cyrus in the year of redemption, but it was a good way to heal at the end of the year of healing, and I don't know if I could ever do better than that. So quit while I'm ahead.
That's a good idea. It also has to have been at least 100 episodes since our first episode about the artist, because we don't want to be stale. We don't want to just repeat someone we just did.
Yeah.
Not that, 90 episodes is just doing them, but 100 episodes is a good distance away. And I was looking at artists that could be redeemed this year, and I think I tried to stick to bands that Connor has scored a 7 or less. Because I don't think the 8s and the 9s really need much redeeming.
I have a feeling I know. I haven't really looked at your list too in depth, but I have a feeling I know why it's a cutoff of a 7 and not a cutoff of a 6.
There's one particular...
One
particular reason is cut off at 7. Yes.
Because I think when we originally talked, we talked about 6, but I think you've snuck a 7 in there.
Yeah, I did.
I'm not surprised.
No.
Nor do I fault you.
No, thank you.
Every rule has an exception.
That's right.
Which is why we'll be doing Miley Cyrus singing.
I don't know about that. But all in all, it's just another brick in the wall. Whatever you score next. But first up to be redeemed, if you haven't already guessed, or if you haven't really been listening to the episode and only half paying attention.
Yeah, if you haven't really been listening to anything we've said.
We've said it a few times. Up first to be redeemed is the Beach Boys. Our first episode on the Beach Boys was about pet sounds.
Yeah.
That was episode 29, came out on January 8th, 2022.
I think I know why that one did so poorly for me.
Well, at first you thought it was because you listened to the mono mix instead of the stereo mix.
Yeah.
But you also complained about things like the harmonies that were slowed down for the ballads. You didn't like their singing and the way they presented it. The ballad guy kind of had an identity crisis.
Yeah, it's none of that.
Uh-huh.
None of that real stuff.
Okay.
The correct answer is we did pet sounds, but we're not allowed into the zoo. And so there was a mismatch there.
Oh, like a cognitive dissonance?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, though. I don't think I've ever been to a zoo that allows pets.
You never had like a petting zoo?
Oh, like a petting zoo. That's different.
Even the zoos have like a petting zoo section of the zoo.
I was thinking pets like domestic cats, dogs, fish, and hermit crabs. You know, pets.
I'm sorry. Did you not see Tiger King? Tigers can be pets.
That was a zoo.
And also a pet.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the Beach Boys episode, there were a lot of things that you thought would be different.
Dude, it was a wild episode. I wanted to go re-listen to it, but then I didn't want to bias myself.
Oh.
So I decided to save the re-listen until after we record.
I re-listened to the whole thing. I did pet sounds again all this morning, and yeah. Because you were a classic rock guy. You were a Beach Boys fan, even. But you only knew the greatest hits. And so there were some hits on pet sounds, like Wouldn't It Be Nice and God Only Knows, Sloop John B over there. But you panned God Only Knows, which is one of the best, in my opinion, Beach Boys songs. You just tore it to shreds. And you thought you'd really go into it loving the Beach Boys. You ended up giving it 6 Racehorses of the Sky out of 10.
Ah, that's right. We were in our pigeon racing era.
That's right. Yeah. You spent the first 7 minutes of the episode talking about pigeon racing because we had recently talked about it in a different episode, and your information about the American Pigeon Racing Union had just arrived.
Which I still have sitting right here at my desk.
Oh boy, 4 years later.
4 years later, it's right here on the little lip of the stand of my monitor.
Wow.
Always close at hand.
Mm-hmm. Well, hang on to your ego, because we're going in again for the Beach Boys. Do you have any different expectations for this album? What were you expecting from a second shot at the Beach Boys, knowing how the first time went?
Something good this time.
Okay, well, I firmly, just to be super clear, still firmly disagree with a lot of what you said about Pet Sounds. I think Pet Sounds is a superior album to this one. I think Pet Sounds is so much better than you kind of gave it credit for. But when I was picking an album to do for a repeat Beach Boys episode, I was very cognizant of the things that you said on Pet Sounds, and I tried to find an album that maybe would play against some of the things you thought were weaknesses on Pet Sounds. I went back and forth between a lot of options. I ended up with the Beach Boys Today for various reasons, but not least of all because it does have a couple of those Beach Boys hits, big songs that you'd know.
Should we do something interesting?
What's that?
Should I re-listen to the original and let you know if my score has changed? Because, I mean, like you said, it was like basically 4 years ago.
That's true.
You've grown my musical palette over the last 4 years.
Tenfold. Yeah.
So, maybe I'd like Pet Sounds more.
Maybe you would. I think what I said in the episode was a lot of the songs on Pet Sounds are kind of growers. You got to let them grow on you. So a first listen is rough. But maybe, yeah, with fresh ears, after several years, you'd come at it differently.
Yeah. A second listen 4 years later.
That'd be a neat little thing.
And then, I just talk about it during Final Spin or whatever.
That'd be kind of fun.
It's hard for this episode, but
we could do that, maybe. I like the idea. Yeah.
I like the idea of a little, hey, do you still stand by your original score, or would you change it?
Yeah. I like it. So episode 29 was pretty early in the life of the podcast, and it's kind of before we had our rhythm and our flow.
Well, we've always had our flow.
That's true. I just mean there's a lot of the stuff about the Beach Boys that we would talk about in a Beach Boys episode now that we didn't talk about back then. Or if you don't go back and listen to the first Beach Boys episode, if this is like a standalone episode for you as the audience, I want you to have all the info you need. So we should do the short version of the About the Artist that'll kind of fill in any gaps we left from the first episode. And I'm curious to see what the Mixtapers cooked up for Factor Spin, coming around to something the second time.
It'll be interesting.
No doubt. So we talked about last time how the Beach Boys have often been called the American Beatles, which is a pretty apt comparison. They landed, what did we say, 7 chart-topping hits in like a span of 2 years, right? They volleyed great albums back and forth between Pet Sounds to Sgt. Pepper. The American Beatles, is pretty good. The band starts with brothers Brian, Dennis, and Carl Wilson. They grew up singing in harmony together on an old tape recorder, and when they were teens, they joined forces with their cousin Mike Love and their school pal Al Jardine, and they started making music as a band called the Pendletones. But Dennis was a surfer. Dennis is the only one who was a surfer, and he persuaded the group to make their now signature brand of Southern California surf pop anthems. I would never have guessed that only one of the Beach Boys surfed, but what do you know? By 1961, they had cut their first demo called Surfin', and the label that put out the single unilaterally decided to rename the Pendletones to the Beach Boys. The label said, no, you're not the Pendletones.
They said, yeah, that's not your name.
Surfin' by the Pendletones? No. Surfin' by the Beach Boys? Oh yeah, absolutely. Turns out, very good call, and the name obviously stuck.
I've unilaterally decided to rename you to Charles.
I don't like that, no.
And you by Chuck, for short.
I mean, it's not the worst, but I think I'm going to stick to my Pendletones and just be James.
So I like the idea of that being an expression. Stick to your Pendletones being an expression for like instead of stick to your guns.
Yeah. It's a very niche expression. Only those of you who listen to this episode will get it, but I like it. Well, the Beach Boys start putting out hits, classics, like Surfin' USA and Little Deuce Coupe and Surfin' Safari and Surfer Girl. Again, a lot of surf songs for only one surfer in the band. They did Fun, Fun, Fun and Be True to Your School and I Get Around. You even know their Christmas song, Little Saint Nick. We talked about that in a Spinter Wonderland.
Yeah, so really this is a three-peat for the Beach Boys, so we've broken our rule already.
Well, no, just a one-off Christmas. We can't include Spinter Wonderland in all this, or we've done everybody twice.
Yeah.
Except for Wham. Done Wham 5 times. I don't know. Well, the Beach Boys put out 4 whole albums in just 12 months. That's a ridiculous output.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's so many.
4 albums. That's an album every 3 months.
Once every quarter. Time for your quarterly Beach Boys album. And that means only one of the albums came out in the summer.
Beach time.
Yeah. But they did their best. Like we talked about, right? This whole time that they're making so much music, Brian Wilson is feeling major pressure to equal or catch up to the Beatles, who are just tearing it up with pop hits on their end as well.
Some could say that they started above the Beatles.
I think that's just a matter of when the British invasion crossed the ocean. When they invaded. They were doing it at the same time, but in different markets.
Just saying, it's a bit of a rivalry there.
A bit, but good-natured. Whatever beef they had, they worked it all out. But Brian Wilson is feeling the heat of being one of the top pop acts in the country, if not the world. That pressure on Brian Wilson is what caused the Beach Boys sound to evolve. And we talked extensively about that on Pet Sounds, right? The group's 11th album from 1966. But before we got to that extreme end of their evolution, there are some stages in the middle where they kind of metamorphosize from this like teen pop boy band. They kind of mature a little more before they get to the psychedelic, trippy, druggy Pet Sounds pop. They have this era in the middle where their music starts to mature and grow with them. And that is where today happens. That's where we're going to be living for this redemption episode. And that's one of the reasons I picked it, because it's not just a little cookie cutter basic beach song album, right? Nothing wrong with that, but I wanted an album that kind of hints at their growth and their transition as they start to become like significant songwriters and artists. But then, obviously I didn't want to evolve them past the point where you know them the best.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, so that's why we're at today. A lot of todays.
A lot of today's.
Yeah. But before today, back in 1964, Brian Wilson is at his wit's end.
Yesterday.
I think there's a shorter word for that. He has had a nervous breakdown, and he decides to retire from touring pretty much altogether just to focus on studio work. He said, I was run down mentally and emotionally because I was running around, jumping on jets from one city to another on one-night stands, also producing, writing, arranging, singing, planning, teaching, to the point where I had no peace of mind and no chance to actually sit down and think or even rest. He said, I told them, being the rest of the band, I foresee a beautiful future for the Beach Boys group, but the only way we could achieve it was if they did their job and I did mine. So he got to work doing his job, taking a step back from touring and digging headfirst into the songwriting. His first step is to push the boundaries of his cookie-cutter sunshine pop to another level, right? Brian Wilson loves and admires Phil Spector. He was intrigued by the wall of sound production style. We talked about it on Pet Sounds. He wanted to get some of that rich, full atmosphere himself, and he said he tried to take the things I learned from Phil Spector and use more instruments whenever I could. I doubled up on basses and tripled up on keyboards, which made everything sound bigger and deeper. And he also started to consider the album as a unit, a cohesive body of work, rather than just a collection of a dozen songs that just so happened to come out at the same time. That's a huge leap. That's a huge step for music and for albums. And Brian Wilson's not the first one to do it, but he's among the first. And it makes for something that's like familiar, right? But then still very new for the Beach Boys in 1965. Their 8th record today. Still 3 records before Pet Sounds. So they lose the surf pop and the general aloofness of their early days, but they still keep a firm foot planted in the world of mid-60s teen pop with some of these dancing songs, some of these romance songs, songs about growing up. Like just more of what you'd expect when you hear me say Beach Boys. There's not a lot of psychedelic experimental music here, like Pet Sounds. Although, it is worth noting that today is right around the time Brian Wilson started to smoke marijuana, which would certainly influence his songwriting a little bit here, but much more later on. And also, it's one of the first times the Beach Boys expand beyond the scope of their quintet. They bring in an orchestra and a cast of more than 25 studio musicians to fill out their sound, which is really unique and special for them. They're expanding. Like Pet Sounds, they do use a lot of instruments on today, but they use them in much more standard and like expected and normal ways. Ways that are probably not too unfamiliar to you listening to this album 60 years later. But like Pet Sounds, they use dog barks and train tracks, and they opened up the piano and leaned over it and plucked the strings with paper clips. You know, they did a lot of different stuff. This album uses a lot of instruments like timpanis and string sections and horns, but they do it in a way that's like normal. It's also a concept record in that they split this album right down the middle. Side A is full of up-tempo songs and lighter subject material, stuff that you said you liked better from Pet Sounds, right there, up-tempo kind of stuff. But then side B is stacked with ballads, which I thought would be good for the ballad guy, but they're also pretty classic-sounding Beach Boys ballads. Not the kind of one-voice, slower, sappier, almost lethargic ballads that sometimes showed up on Pet Sounds. There's a little more pep and a little more zing in the ballads on the back half of Today. And it was meant, as an album, to explore this persistent flow of emotion from track to track to track, which is cool. I think it's neat that they considered the album as a unit for this one.
Yeah.
The band cranked out most of the recording over a 12-day stretch in January of 1965, and most of the tracks came out as singles in the period leading up to the whole record's release. It came out on March 8th, 1965, and boy was it ever a hit. It went to number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 by May. Help Me Rhonda wound up being the band's second ever number 1 hit. And while critics were kind of dubious about the new direction at the time, obviously hindsight is 2020, and critics have come to revere the record and respect it as like a stepping stone in the band's evolution. Especially today, critics love the ballad half, which is interesting. The author of the book 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die, David Hutchian, included Today on his list of 1001 albums, and he called it the perfect Beach Boys LP. Rolling Stones also ranked it the 271st greatest album of all time. They put Pet Sounds at number 2, so I don't know how much that ranking means in your eyes, but redemption, you know?
Redemption. We're here. It's not about the past.
No. Yeah, it's about today. So yes. But again, largely people just point to Today as a big evolution in the album as an art form for rock music. A lot of people were not making cohesive concept records like this one in 1965 and still didn't for a few years. I mean, the Beatles' first concept album, as far as, you know, most metrics go, was Sgt. Pepper, and that didn't come till after Pet Sounds. You could kind of make a case for Revolver. I mean, I'd entertain arguments, but that's irrelevant. Either way, Today was ahead of its time.
You said, I would entertain arguments. I was like, I would entertain arguments, but I won't.
You're right. That is pretty much what I just said.
I would, but I'm not.
Yeah, that's what would means. It's conditional. The conditions have not been met. And then after Today, of course, came the Pet Sounds era. Iconic, episode 29. The band continued to evolve and put out what's considered some of their best work, like the Smile Sessions. You know all the rest. They got banned from the San Diego Zoo. They had that mix-up with Charles Manson and the Manson family, which, by the way, is way more intense and close to the murders than I realized when the Mixtaper presented that fact. Like,
yeah.
Like, they lived with Charles Manson and this cult, and they cut one of his songs and sang it, and then, like, a month or 2 months, or, like, not a long time after they moved out, the Manson murders happened, which is just unbelievable. It's so wild. Look into that more if you didn't after the last episode.
It's pretty nuts.
And then John Stamos joined the band. The house is getting fuller. Was he in Full House?
Yeah, he sure was. Good job.
That's okay. I still haven't seen it. It's been 4 years. I haven't watched a single episode of Full House. But every time I see John Stamos, I go, hey, that's that Beach Boy.
Banned from the San Diego Zoo.
That's right. By the time the 1980s rolled around, Dennis Wilson was in a pretty bad way. He was in financial trouble, he was struggling in romantic relationships, and he was heavily abusing drugs. He ended up drowning accidentally after checking into rehab at the age of 39. Then in 1997, Carl was diagnosed with lung and brain cancer. He tried to continue his work with the band, but he passed away in early 1998 at age 51. And that is the point when Al Jardine left the group and tried to tour under the Beach Boys name, which kicked off the infamous tug-of-war between members and the rights to call themselves the Beach Boys. Nobody could figure out who the Beach Boys were. Sometimes they had to tour as the Beach Boys and Friends. Sometimes they had to tour as, like, Friends of the Beach Boys, or I don't know, they had to change it around legally. But in any case, the band's 29th and final studio album, That's Why God Made the Radio, came out in 2012.
Final so far.
No, it's pretty final.
Never say never.
There were partial reunions and rumors of other tours since, but the Beach Boys story, you could pretty much say never on the future of anything Beach Boys, because...
All right, I'm going to replay this clip for you in 100 episodes when we're doing a new Beach Boys album.
I wouldn't count on it. You know, very recently, the Beach Boys story kind of had its capstone put on it with the death of Brian Wilson. He passed away just a month ago.
Yeah.
Actually, a month to the day when this episode comes out.
Yeah.
It was June 11th, 2025, and he passed away after a battle with dementia, although I don't think his official cause of death has been released at the time of recording this. So that's tragic. Brian Wilson, just a masterclass in songwriting, and like, what a musician, what a talent. I do think this is the first time we've had an episode scheduled and then notes taken and had an artist pass away between that time and the recording.
Yeah, that was nuts.
Yeah, I guess it was bound to happen eventually, but that was a wild headline to see, that's for sure. So, Mike Love and Al Jardine are the last two surviving original Beach Boys. And again, they could put out an album, but I don't even know if they're allowed to use the Beach Boys name. So,
yeah, I don't know.
Who's to say? But as for their awards and accolades, the Beach Boys are Rolling Stone's 12th greatest artist of all time. They've also got that Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award after 4 nominations, but no wins. They've also got 3 songs and all of the album Pet Sounds in the Grammy Hall of Fame. The original 5 members made the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1988 and the Vocal Group Hall of Fame a decade later in 1998. They got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1980. And also, interesting, the Beach Boys hold the distinction of having played the largest concert in Rhode Island for a crowd of 40,000 fans, in the street where they had the stage is now named after them. And there's also a stretch of highway in California that has a historical marker about the band on it because the Wilsons' childhood home had to be demolished so they could build the freeway, which is so annoying. But what are you going to do? So that's the Beach Boys. That's the rest of the About the Artist to fill in the gaps from episode 29. And before we could talk about today, it's time for another round of Factor Spin about the Beach Boys. I think we hit some good ones last time.
Well, let's hope we hit some good ones again.
I know, I'm so curious to see what's still in the waiting in the wings from the Beach Boys fact pool. Let's get the Mixtaper on out here and see what he's up to.
Hey, it's me, the Mixtaper.
Hello, Mixtaper. Welcome to year 5. I gotta ask, I've been dying to ask, do you think Brian Wilson ever got his soul out of that painting?
If not, there's a chance for another Beach Boys album.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. I think about that fact sometimes, and I still don't understand it. I don't understand at all what was going through his head when he looked at the painting and found his soul trapped in it. But what do you know?
What do you know? Well, I've got another exciting round of Factor Spin about the Beach Boys. The pool was not closed for the season. We're still smack dab in the middle of summer.
That's right. I'm ready to catch a wave and catch a win.
Did you win last time? Is this a redemption for you or I for Factor Spin?
That's a great question that I hadn't even considered. We'll have Factor Spin redemptions. As a matter of fact, I won the Beach Boys episode with a score of 3-1.
No.
I did not realize John Stamos was a Beach Boy, but I nailed the Manson, the San Diego Zoo, and the Soul painting.
Fantastic. So this is my redemption then.
Yeah. If you win 3-1, we'll go 50-50.
And then we'll have to do them a third time.
In another 100 episodes. What's up 5th?
I hadn't considered that. That's a really funny thing to do too. Up 5th, Brian Wilson was such a Beach Boy, he had his own sandbox.
Had his own sandbox?
Yeah, so he could always have a little indoor beach.
Oh, and indoor sandbox is absolutely unbelievable. What?
Yeah, an indoor sandbox, an indoor beach.
When he was a kid or when he was older?
As an adult.
Wow. You keep saying you switch between indoor sandbox and indoor beach. What are the dimensions?
Well, because I realized after I said sandbox that indoor beach was a way better way to say this because they're the Beach Boys.
Okay, sure. But was it like a sandbox where you can build sandcastles and stuff with your hand? Is it like on the floor you could sit in a beach chair and get your feet sandy?
It was apparently approximately 8 tons of fine sand.
8 tons?
Uh-huh.
I was going to say that's a ton of sand, but that's 8 times too few. What inspired him to do this? What volume of sand is that? How much space does that take up? I guess it depends on how deep you layer it.
It's a ton. 1 ton is 2,000 pounds, right? So that's like 16,000 pounds of sand.
It's a lot of sand.
That's the number I found, all right?
It's a lot of sand. I'm just trying to conceptualize what 8 tons of sand would look like if you scattered it on the floor of my apartment.
Like, I know it probably takes a ton of sand to, like, fill a sandbox, but still. But yeah, it was 8 tons of premium fine beach sand.
That's cool. Did he have anything else in it? Like, you know, sand toys?
A piano.
Oh, a piano. For, like, songwriting? Did he go sit on the beach and write?
Yeah, he said he could wiggle his bare feet in the sand while playing piano to feel like a carefree kid at the beach, and hoping that vibe would inspire sunny new music.
Wow. He's got a special room in his house built just for sand.
Yeah, there was a large walled pit in the middle of his room. I don't know which room in his house, but they put a giant pit and filled it with sand.
Hopefully not an important room in his house. The living room. Please take your shoes off when you come in the living room. Don't want you to track sand everywhere. The bathroom. Oh, if you had cats, they'd love that.
It's heaven for cats.
How much money did he spend on this? How much does a ton of sand cost?
I'm going to give you an opportunity to rescind that question.
I'd like to. Yeah, I'd like to take it back. I don't want to play the game. I don't want to guess. I can't wrap my head around why. Like, if all he's doing is putting a piano in it and sitting there, why is it that much sand?
Well, he would play it. I doubt he just sits at the piano. I'm sure he plays it.
No, I know, but my point is he could just fill a little tub with sand and wiggle his toes. He doesn't need, like, a vast expanse in the dining room, you know?
You can't cheap out on beach vibes, all right? Can't imitate the beach with just a little bucket.
I don't know. Close your eyes. Your feet don't know the difference. I'm going to say this is a spin. No way.
Going with spin.
Do we also know, you didn't say a time frame of when this was. Is this like 1960s peak Beach Boys? Is this like Brian Wilson in his 70s? Sitting at home, wiggling his septuagenarian toes?
1966.
Oh, wow. Like Pet Sounds. He could have sat down at his Pet Sounds piano and wrote.
Yeah.
God only knows. Feet in the sand.
God only knows why there's so much sand.
Honestly.
Well, first fact of the year of redemption is off to a great start for me. This is a true fact.
This is a true 8 tons of sand?
That's the number on the internet.
Man, he really did have a nervous breakdown.
When you Google how much sand was in Brian Wilson's sandbox, the first thing that pops up is about 8 tons of premium beach sand.
Wow.
Like, Google knows. I found the article that talked about it. I was like, I wonder how much sand he used. And I Googled it. It was like 8 tons. So, yeah.
That's a lot of sand. I was banking on a little bit this fact being known for the first episode and irresistible to pass up. I kind of figured if this was true, you would have...
Well, and that's why I started with one like this, to just get that line of thinking out of your head.
Yeah.
Because that, while good for me, I can just bring a bunch of true facts and you'll continuously think there's no way you would have held on to that.
That's true.
The pools of fact and spin run infinitely deep.
I know. Especially for an artist like the Beach Boys that have been so thoroughly covered and like debunked and examined over the decades. Oh, actually, I might have believed this if I had done some research beforehand.
Good thing you're not allowed to do that.
You can buy 35 cubic feet of sand, which weighs a ton, and it's $137.
Oh.
So 8 tons of sand would probably run you less than $1,000.
Wow. Not nearly as impressive.
No.
Cut this part out of the episode.
No, the people need to know. It would cover a lot of area, but it wouldn't be wild.
Yeah.
I just Googled how much sand is in the average Sandbox.
I don't know why that's so funny to me. Sandbox.
I know. For a 5x5 sandbox, you need 25 50-pound bags of sand. So we'll have to do some math.
So that's still a lot. Hang on. 50-pound bags? So you need 320 bags.
I mean, that's a lot.
I just typed pag of sand.
Pags
of sand in your snad.
How much for a pag of snads?
Pag of snad. Oh.
Yeah, lots of pags of snad.
How much for a pag of snad?
Oh, boy, we're off to a real redemptive start.
Yeah, and let's take it right on over to Brian Wilson once made his dad a pretty crappy meal.
Made his dad a crappy meal?
Yeah, crappy meal.
What kind of a meal? What'd he make? I feel like the word crappy is important to this.
Yeah.
In some way that's much more literal than I would like it to be.
Yeah. Brian's dad was late for dinner one time, so he took a crap on it.
What? Brian Wilson, dad's not home. He says, I'm going to make dinner for my dad.
Well, I don't know if he made dinner or if he just crapped on his dinner, but he crapped on it. Took a little poop on his dad's dinner.
I don't even know where to begin. So you don't know if he even cooked the dinner. Brian Wilson was just excited to eat with his dad?
I don't even think he was excited. I think he just saw an opportunity and he took it.
Okay. How late was his dad for dinner? I mean, is this like he's just taking 5 more minutes to, finish changing the oil in the car? Or is he like gone at a parent-teacher conference for an extra hour or something?
I don't really know. Just know he was late for dinner. And so, the plate was sitting there with dinner on it. And he said, I know what I'm going to do about this. And took a little poop on it.
Drop trowel and let her fly. At the table? Like, did he just stand up on a chair and do it on the table?
I don't know. I doubt he got up on the table. He probably put the plate on the floor or took it to the bathroom. I really don't know. I have zero detail on how he accomplished the feat.
Uh-huh. And what does his dad say when he comes back?
He was not impressed.
No, I don't think impressed is an emotion I would feel if I discovered this.
Yeah, they kind of hated each other.
Okay. How old was he?
Not an adult.
No, but I'm thinking this sounds like 13, 14.
Yeah.
This sounds like a early teenager thing to do.
He was pretty cruel to his kids, would punish them in weird ways.
Okay, so this is like retribution?
Yeah, that's how I view it.
Gotcha.
One time, as a punishment, their dad removed his own glass eye and forced his sons to stare into his empty eye socket.
Okay, that's a bit much.
Yeah, so, stare into, the void of an eye, poop on a dinner plate, tit for tat.
That's got the same energy as like Arrested Development, where their dad just hires the guy to make his arm fall off and scare the kids. Like,
It is kind of got those vibes. Maybe they was inspired by it.
Maybe. What are his other brothers doing during this?
Don't know. You now know as much as I do.
This can't be real, can it? That's so wild.
That is what we're here to answer.
This has got to be, it's got to be a spin. There's just no way, right?
Well, I'm here to tell you, there is absolutely a way. This is another true fact.
Gotta be kidding me.
Both the turd and the glass eye thing. A little 2-for-1 fact there.
A little too much too. I don't even know. I'm shocked. That's one of the most unhinged facts ever.
What happens when you go deep into the pool?
A little poop in the pool.
The deep end had a little poop in the pool. Somebody pooped the pool.
Somebody. I know who it was. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, supposedly it's true. It's on the internet, so it must be true.
Yep. I'm definitely doing much worse this time.
Yeah, it's already going better for me. This is great.
Well, you've thrown me 2 of the hardest ones we've had in a while here.
Well, I'll try to throw you an easy one about someone we talked about on this podcast. How about that?
Okay, like the Beach Boys.
Paul McCartney is a Beach Boy.
Uh-oh. This one's going to be frustrating because we already talked about, we've had stuff like this before where Dave Grohl's daughter was an honorary Beatle. And we talked in the last episode about the Beach Boys, about how Paul McCartney thought God Only Knows was the greatest song ever written. He had high praise for Brian Wilson. When Brian passed away this past couple weeks, I saw Paul McCartney post a nice tribute to him. Paul McCartney is a Beach Boy. Mm-hmm. In what sense?
In the sense of, like, the same way that, like, John Stamos is a Beach Boy. Kind of somewhat honorary, played with them. He was on a song with the Beach Boys.
On a song? Oh, interesting. But John Stamos, like, toured with them and sang lead on a song. And
yeah, Paul McCartney didn't do either of those, but, he's on a track.
Okay, he's, like, featured on a Beach Boys song.
uncredited.
Really? Which song?
The song Vegetables from the 1967 album Smiley Smile.
67? Mm-hmm. Wow, that's Beatles Paul McCartney.
Uh-huh.
How did this get set up? I know a lot about Beatles Paul McCartney.
Uh-huh. Sorry, did you think I was talking about a different Paul McCartney?
No, I just mean while he was in the Beatles. I know a lot about Paul McCartney while he was actively in the Beatles.
Ah.
And I know a little bit about Wings and, Paul and Linda after Beatles stuff too. But yeah, mostly I know a lot about Beatles Paul McCartney. So this doesn't sound as familiar as I would like it to be.
Well, yeah, Paul McCartney hung out with Brian Wilson all the time, as you kind of said. They were buddies. He attended a lot of the Pet Sounds recording sessions just to hang out and provided some audio for the track Vegetables.
Like vocals? Uncredited vocals on the song Vegetables.
You could call them vocals, sure.
Like harmonies? He doesn't ever sing the lead.
No, not leading. I doubt there's any harmonies to the sound he was making.
What did he do?
He chewed celery.
Chewed celery. Well, Paul McCartney famously goes on to be a vegetarian.
Yeah, he chewed celery and made celery chewing noises for their song Vegetables.
I don't know if that makes him a Beach Boy.
That's what I said. It's Beach Boy in the sense that he, provided he's on a track. What else do you want?
That's true.
How much more Beach Boy do you need to be?
Does that mean Paul McCartney is banned from the San Diego Zoo?
Oh, no.
If this is true.
I'm so sorry, Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
We may have bad news for you. We'll let you know in a couple minutes.
I think this could be true.
Ooh.
Vegetables is a song I'm not familiar with. It sounds a little silly and goofy. Paul McCartney, it obviously is not a big time commitment.
The song was written by Brian Wilson and Van Dyke Parks. The song was conceived by Wilson as a tongue-in-cheek promotion of organic food.
It's obviously not going to be a huge time commitment for Paul to come in and go chomp chomp. Like, he could do that while he's a busy Beatle.
Sounds like he was already there. I mean, he hung out all the time.
Oh, I'll say this is
He doesn't know what to do. He's torn. This is supposed to be an easy one. It's about a Beatle. You know all about the Beatles. And you know all about the candy that they threw at the Beatles.
I do. Jelly babies. I think this is a spin. I think it's a spin.
A spin.
Yep. I think there's someone that does an uncredited celery crunch. Sure. In Vegetables. And it might even be someone of note.
Oh.
And I think you change who that someone of note is to Paul McCartney because that's cool. And they're the American Beatles is what we said in the past episode.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm suspicious, and I just feel like if he was there all the time during Pet Sounds, I would know about it a little better. I feel like the Beach Boys probably recorded Pet Sounds in America. The Beatles were working out of Abbey Road, across the pond. I don't know if it lines up the way I want it to. So I think this one's a spin.
Well, I hate to break it to you, and I hate to break it to Paul McCartney even more, but this is a true fact!
Oh, I'm bombing.
A true fact until proven otherwise. There's one small caveat that allows you to prove me wrong.
Okay.
There are many witnesses that were there that claim it is Paul McCartney who does the celery noise, but none of the audio that exists for that song, like the masters and stuff, like there's nothing in there that's like, oh, Paul McCartney chewing celery. There's nothing that like definitively calls out Paul McCartney in any of the surviving recording masters.
Oh, it's just hearsay, word of mouth. Eyewitness.
Yeah, it's only eyewitness accounts. So I'm going with true because eyewitnesses, but they're also, they say eyewitnesses are like the least reliable. So there is an out for you.
Well, they're the least reliable when it's like a thing like identifying criminals after a crime, when you got to remember something quick and in the heat of the moment. To watch a man chew celery into a microphone for 5 minutes, and that man is one of the most famous musicians in the world, I would trust that testimony a little better, probably.
Well, then there you go. It's on the Vegetables song Wikipedia page. So I'm going with fact.
3 really ridiculous facts in a row. Man.
Yeah. And one more.
Year 5 is going off the rails.
Are you ready for our final supposedly true fact?
I guess so. The 8th Beach Boys fact.
Well, I feel bad that you missed a Beatles related fact. So I'm going to give you a redemption within the year, a redemption within the redemption.
Whoa, redempception.
Yeah. The Beatles lost a surf duel to the Beach Boys.
Oh, goodness. Now, on principle, I believe this. The Beatles don't strike me as surfers at all. I don't think they have touched an ocean beyond the bounds of, like, the movie Help. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of surfing in England. But there's not a lot of surfing in the Beach Boys either. Like, Dennis is the only surfer. I guess they must have spent a little more time at the beach.
I didn't say that.
Yeah. What's the point here? When do the Beatles and the Beach Boys surf duel?
Well, the Beach Boys were getting a little fed up with the British invasion.
Of course.
And so Mike Love issued a public challenge to the Beatles for a surfing contest at Malibu Beach.
Oh.
They threw down the gauntlet to determine which band, quote, ruled the surf.
That's not a fair challenge.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a fair challenge.
No.
Be like the Beach Boys being like, let's see who can identify the most Beatles.
I got 4 of them. What are the parameters? Do they just take turns surfing to see who stays on the board the longest or does the coolest trick?
I don't know what they had in mind for how the challenge would be run.
Okay. Was there a challenge? Did the Beatles pick up the gauntlet?
It was challenged, but no, the Beatles never picked up the gauntlet.
So you're saying they lost by forfeiture?
Well, that's not what I'm saying. That's what Mike Love, who had a trophy made that says Surf Kings of 1967, says.
Gotcha.
He says that the Beach Boys win by default because they forfeited.
Because the Beatles never responded or showed up.
Yeah, so he had a trophy made that's a golden surfboard that then has like an inscription, a little plate that says Surf Kings of 1967.
Wow. Well, they're the Beach Boys. Surely they're the Surf Kings of 1967. That's when the little rivalry is kind of at its peak with the Sgt. Pepper Pet Sounds business. Paul McCartney's about to chomp on celery. I guess I'll say this one's a fact.
Going with fact. All fact week.
Yeah, I think it's especially believable since the Beatles did absolutely nothing in this fact. This was a hollow challenge and a shallow victory. So I think I'm going to call it a fact and hope I don't get shut out. What a bad start to the year of redemption.
How dare you call the Surf Kings of 1967 shallow and hollow?
Only one of them surfed.
None of them surfed on this challenge, as far as I'm aware.
Right.
Lacking in fact.
I challenged Paul McCartney to a podcast off.
Ooh.
Yeah. He's got 1 week to host a podcast. Host, not guest. If he doesn't, we're the podcast champs of 2025.
Oh, champs, not kings?
Why not both? We're the podcast champion kings of 2025.
Oh, I like it. Podcast champion kings of 2025.
If Paul McCartney doesn't host a podcast by next Friday,
And if he makes us eat those words.
then he'll be the podcast champion king.
Yeah, I'd be okay. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, well, the gauntlet's been thrown down. But I do think this Beatles surf competition is a fact insofar as this fact goes.
So, yeah, it's like I said after the first one. The well of factor spin, the pool? It's a pool, that's the metaphor. The pool of factor spin is quite deep, and never assume that just because it's an amazing fact that it can't still be real on round 2.
I don't like that you're prefacing the answer to this with that.
But that also means they can't still be a spin. Fact number 8 for the Beach Boys is a spin.
No. Oh, shoot.
Which means I have been redeemed, and with a shutout nonetheless.
Yikes. Yikes, I got shut out.
That brings our total to 5-3 on Beach Boys rounds of factor spin.
Yeah, 5-3.
This is great. This worked out perfectly for me.
You just make this up?
Fan submitted.
Wow, that's a good one.
Fan submitted. Again, if you want to suggest true information about your favorite artist or completely made up stuff about potential artists, which is usually what I get, which probably because it's more fun and you guys don't know what episodes we're doing.
Yeah.
You can hit us up on social media or email me. I have an email. The Mixtaper has an email.
That's right.
And it is definitely an email I remember. It is MrMixtaper@gmail.com.
No, it's literally Mixtaper@spinitpod.com.
Oh, is it that easy?
Yeah, it's that easy.
Mixtaper@spinitpod.com.
Yeah.
It's that easy, folks. You heard it from James. It's that easy to help me get more shutouts in Factor Spin.
Man, that's a rough one.
And please give me like confirmation you want me to shout you out and like what you want me to call you, because I'd love to be able to shout out people who submit stuff.
Wow, I feel bad about this week, but man, good about this episode. What a wild ride.
It was a pretty crappy week for you.
Yeah, I feel like Brian Wilson's dad's dinner.
I was going to play Fast Hard Facts this week with just a list of people who were Beach Boy members. And there's a couple really cool ones, but for the most part, it was a bunch of people I didn't know the names of, so I figured most people wouldn't know the names of. But they've had a lot of touring members and collaborators and brief, stints people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Did you know they're the ones that we've never talked about this, as far as I'm aware? in a Beach Boys episode, but are you aware that they're the ones that discovered Glenn Campbell?
Oh, I was about to talk about Glenn Campbell later in this episode.
Okay, well then I'm glad I didn't bring it for Fact or Spin.
Yeah.
Because, he briefly replaced Brian Wilson on tour in the 1964 to 65 era.
Wow.
And that was kind of his breakout stuff.
Yeah, no, there was a song they were going to put on today that they passed on and gave to Glenn Campbell instead, and it became one of his first hits.
Yeah.
What do you know?
Blondie Chaplin was a touring member and sang lead on Sail on Sailor before going and playing with the Rolling Stones. John Cowsill from the Cowsills was a touring member at one point. Tony Tennille from Captain and Tennille sang backup for the Beach Boys.
Everybody's banned from the San Diego Zoo.
Yeah, a lot of people banned from the... I don't know how they stay in operation.
The world's a beach boy.
And when everyone's a beach boy, the San Diego Zoo will close.
Yeah.
All right, well, I got to get out of here. I've always stayed my welcome. You guys got a podcast to do, so I got to go.
Well, we're doing one right now.
Wait, we are?
Yeah.
Is this thing on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah!
Well, there he goes. Goodbye, Mixtaper. He'll be back next week for something fun. And welcome back, Connor.
Can't believe you got shut out.
Me either.
He gave you 2 Beatles-related facts, and you missed them both.
Yeah, that's true. The one was not Beatles. It was Paul McCartney, and he just ate celery, which I know he does a lot of.
Sorry, who is Paul McCartney?
Well, he's a beach boy.
That's right, he is. So you could argue that, the Beach Boys won that feud if they got Paul McCartney.
That's true.
No, the Beach Boys are Beatles, so...
Yeah, well, let's put that behind us and talk about the album art.
Yeah, please move on. I'm sick and tired of wallowing in this.
I know. Let's talk about the album art.
Yeah, album art.
It's nice to know that the awful cover of Pet Sounds was actually an improvement on their old stuff, because look at this. It's so brown. Why are they always so brown? Come on, Beach Boys.
They're like the sand. They're all different shades of sand.
Why don't they just take a full picture? Why'd they put them in this tiny little box?
Yeah, I don't know.
And they clickbait you, too.
Yeah, what are they on? What is this little metal bar?
It looks like the edge of a pool, but they're in, sweaters. It's not giving beach.
Yeah, and, they're all doing, the sorority girl, squat to the side pose. What is happening here? It almost, from this angle, looks like they're riding, one of those, 5-person tandem bikes.
Yeah, like a really long horse or something.
Oh, a really long horse is good.
Thank you. Maybe that's why they cropped it this way, is because they thought they had a good idea for the cover, and then the pictures all turn out awful, and so they're like, they're just the waist's up, please. I just can't, I don't understand it.
Who has the best fake smile/laugh? And why is it the guy on the right?
You think? I think Brian's winning the fake smile contest.
I don't know them by face. His eyes look fake.
Yeah.
He's got it in the mouth, but the eyes are dead. Whereas the guy on the right, he's got the full face, kind of hunched in. The guy in the middle's not even trying.
No. But they've also got it clickbaity. They put most of the titles up top, and then there's room for more of them. But instead of putting them on here, they say, plus 3 more great songs written by Brian Wilson.
Yeah, there was plenty of room to put them all.
Plenty of room.
Even if you're the top's getting a little crowded, you got the entire bottom.
The whole bottom. And the Capitol logo, you can move to the bottom corner.
I'll be honest, moving the Capitol logo to the bottom corner, all the tracks to the bottom, bring the Beach Boys to the center of the top.
And then today, make it bigger.
The thing that says the Beach Boys today. Yeah.
I just really question all the graphic design choices here. It's so brown.
And then the picture wouldn't look as weirdly cropped if you filled that space.
Yeah, it's top heavy. This whole album cover is top heavy because there's nothing on the bottom.
We'll see if the top heavy album art is any sort of an omen for how this album's gonna go. Will it be top heavy?
Yeah, no kidding. I do think in this category we can definitively say album cover, not redemption.
Yeah. Man, there's so many things I didn't even consider being able to redeem. Did I not like the Pet Sounds one? Because looking at it,
well, it's green.
I feel like I would have been all about these goats.
And one of the goats ate a radio.
It feels like I would have been all about these goats.
Yeah, I think you would have been. There's other fine pictures of them from this shoot in their sweaters.
I just don't, again, why are they wearing sweaters? Why are they always looking so fancy in the most non-fancy places?
I don't know.
They don't look like Beach Boys.
No, they do in some of their earlier stuff with surfboards and whatever, but
then they became beach men.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe this is their attempt to try and mature their image a little bit. Oh, we're not Beach Boys anymore. We're
beach men.
We're beach men.
Track 1. Wait, is this track 1 or is this technically track 14?
No, I think it's going to be track 1. New album, new track list.
Oh.
But let me ask you something.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Do you want to talk about Do You Want to Dance? Do you want to dance?
Yeah, I'd rather dance to Do You Want to Talk than talk about Do You Want to Dance.
Well, that's too bad. Do You Want to Talk is not on this album. Do You Want to Dance is. It's a popular Beach Boys song, but it's a cover. The original is by Bobby Freeman, but this one has vocal harmonies and really fleshed out orchestration. And the Beach Boys version hit number 12 in the US. Is this a Beach Boys song that you knew? One of their bigger hits?
No.
No. Really? That surprises me.
I don't think so. I mean, I'm mainly familiar with Wouldn't It Be Nice, Sloop John B, Barbara Ann, Surfing USA.
Yeah. Okay, well then what did you think of Do You Want to Dance? Because to me, it has a lot of the vibes of those songs that you just named, especially, the older, surfier Beach Boys stuff.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it is a little old sounding, but I like the vibe of it.
Yeah.
I'd put this song on like a beach playlist if I was going to the beach. I'd pop this song on there.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's great. Dennis sings the lead vocals on Do You Want to Dance? It wound up being his highest charting song on lead, actually. They recorded Do You Want to Dance at Gold Star Studios, and the version you hear today is from their third take. It's also one of the first times that the band used session musicians to back them up. We talked about that in the first part. And the session musicians they used for a lot of the album were largely a part of the infamous LA Wrecking Crew, like Hal Blaine and Larry Knechtel and Tommy Tedesco, and more. People you might know from a lot of other songs that you don't realize you know.
More people banned from the San Diego Zoo?
Session musicians, I think, are exempt.
They should have called this song Do You Want to Dance?
They should have. That's true.
That would have been funnier. I like how the song ramps up towards the end. Like, they just keep building on it and adding more sound.
Yeah, right.
By the end, there's just, like, people shrieking or whatever. It's like, what?
Like any good song, just people shrieking.
It's better than people streaking.
That's true. Do you think there's too many do yous?
No.
The chorus doesn't really have many lyrically diverse things going on, but...
No, I think it's okay.
Good. Me too. And it really does just, have such a satisfying ramp into that first chorus. Do You Want to Dance is a Beach Boys song I've known since I was, so young. Like a kid. It's just got such a full sound. Like, to hear how Brian Wilson was so inspired by Phil Spector and starting to experiment with more and more instruments and layering things, and, Do You Want to Dance is full of that. There's a cool guitar solo in here. It's that same youthful energy, right? We talked about how Pet Sounds was a growing up album and leaving the old behind. Do You Want to Dance? It's still got that 1 foot in youthfulness. Dancing under the moonlight, and, it's just a good little teenage pop song. I think it's gone down as the second most popular song on this album, at least according to the lingering Spotify plays.
The number one metric for how popular a song is.
On this podcast, apparently, it counts for something. I think it's a pretty solid start to the album with the energy. The album cover just is such a fake out for what you're going to get when you start the album. It does not look like the kind of music that's coming out of these 5 guys in a brown rectangle.
Riding their really long horse.
Yeah, that's a horse. It's a quick song. 2 minutes and 21 seconds. Like, the whole album is pretty short because that's just what pop music did in the 60s. But Do You Want to Dance feels over regrettably soon. And then we move on to the second track in the early up-tempo half of the album, Good to My Baby. This is one I didn't know. On this album, the ones that I knew were Do You Want to Dance, Help Me Rhonda, Dance, Dance, Dance. I think those were the 3 that I knew going into this.
Okay.
But Good to My Baby was new. People compare Good to My Baby to classic older Beach Boys stuff. And they said that makes it kind of a good anchor for the album as you look to the newer sounding stuff later on. Good to My Baby keeps a lot of the Beach Boys DNA intact, and they present it to you right at the front to kind of just ground you in their sound and in their world. Brian Wilson and Mike Love trade leads on Good to My Baby, which is nice. And it starts with such a cool vocal hook.
I do like the vocal hook.
Yeah, and they followed up with that plucky little guitar. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Is this song fast enough to support the falsetto? His high head voice is something you kind of didn't always love on the slower songs of Pet Sounds, but you kind of in the past said that the faster songs carried it better.
Yeah, no, I do. I like it on this one because I also think it's used tastefully.
Yeah, it's a little more sparing and quick. The Pet Sounds, they like to draw it out a lot more.
I like the guitar on this one too.
Yeah.
That do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
It's pretty good. The tambourine on Good to My Baby, the instrumentation is really well supportive on all these tracks. I don't think they ever leave them hanging too much. Lyrically, it's the Brian Wilson lyrics, man. He's such a guy. They accuse this man of not being good to his baby, so he's proven him wrong. He's defensive, and he's pushing back on people that he says don't know what they're talking about. So many of Brian Wilson's relationship songs are, like, fraught. If he's not singing a love song directly to his lover, like, any song that's from some third-party perspective looking at his relationship is always, like, stressy. I think it's a really interesting song. Also really quick and short. Then we get into maybe the second weirdest kind of song on the album, Don't Hurt My Little Sister.
Well, why is that weird?
It's not weird to not want someone to hurt your little sister. It's just like, I've seen a lot of critical reviews and stuff that say maybe this sibling likes his sister a little too much. He said he's got some weird lines in here.
Oh.
It's okay to not want people to hurt your little sister and to want a guy to treat her right. But, like, when you start getting into lyrics like, why don't you kiss her? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I think that's okay. Don't hurt her.
Don't hurt her.
What's the opposite of hurting? Being, like, loving towards, like, a kiss.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, if it said, why don't I kiss her, then...
Well, there's a good reason for that.
Then we've got some issues.
Yeah, that's just an interesting song. Wilson wrote it about the Rovels. He said, I wrote it from the perspective of one of them telling me not to treat another one of them badly. And that was good advice. Brian would eventually go on to marry Marilyn Rovell. And it was intended to be for the Ronettes, right? You know the Ronettes.
No, I don't.
Well, they're very famous. You should know them. We will. But Phil Spector, he got the song, and then he redirected it and changed all the lyrics, so the song became Things Are Changing for the Better by the Blossoms. It never got to the Ronettes. So instead, it was the first track the Beach Boys recorded for today.
That's cool.
I think something about Don't Hurt My Little Sister falls a little flat for me. I think it's the melody.
Yeah.
The guitar riff isn't as strong as Good to My Baby.
It's my least favorite of the three so far.
It'll continue to be my least favorite for quite a few tracks yet. I don't think we put anything below it for quite some time. But that's okay. I mean, it does all the things the Beach Boys do right well. Like the harmonies, they're great. You know, the general vibe is high. It's fine. Also, the chords in the refrain for Don't Hurt My Little Sister will eventually be recycled into the Beach Boys hit, California Girls. Do you know that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, not the Katy Perry one, the Beach Boys would.
Oh. No, okay.
Imagine. That'd be wild. So I, knew Do You Want to Dance, and I liked Good to My Baby. I think the first song that really was like, wow, I feel like I have discovered a new song here that I really, a good one that I'm surprised I didn't know. Probably comes with When I Grew Up to Be a Man.
See, this is one that I think this podcast has allowed me to appreciate more than if, this is what we did way back on episode 29.
Yeah, well, this is also so much closer to old Beach Boys than anything on Pet Sounds.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I get what you're saying. It's true. It's kind of the first inkling that the Beach Boys are growing up a little bit. They're saying it pretty directly. Sad teen song. He's worried about turning into a boring old man unexpectedly. Brian said, when I was younger, I used to worry about turning into an old square over the years. I don't think I will now, and that is what inspired When I Grow Up. So, right, the song asks all these questions about falling in and out of love, leaving behind childish ways, and what that practically looks like. Will I still like the things that turned me on as a kid, is what they say in the lyrics. It's interesting. And I love the way that they kind of punctuate the inevitability of growing up by this incessant counting from 14 up into the 30s. Like, you just feel yourself aging every time the verse hits a break between phrases. I think that's a nice touch. It makes the song unique and memorable.
Yeah, I mean, again, the falsetto, not my favorite, but the harmonies and the sound, right? Like, it's kind of like you said, this is the sound that I know.
Yeah, I just think it ends up being a really memorable song, and the shortest one yet. It's pretty wild.
That is wild. It's the shortest.
It's also ridiculous that their growing up to be a man stops at 32.
Well, when would you put it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they ended at a fine spot for the song. 32 just seems like a random age, and it also seems like, look, as someone who's closer to 32 than he used to be, I don't know if it seems that old. I don't think I'm growing up to be a square. Should I be worried about it? I don't know.
Well,
I'm just saying this song counts the number that is my age very late into it. So,
yeah, that's fair. That is fair. I don't think I have to worry about growing up to be a square.
Yeah, well, that's good.
I got plenty of curves.
I got plenty of other shapes to worry about.
Yeah. Square's not the shape I'm worried about.
Yeah. I got plenty of curves. Good grief. Up next, another song that I knew and another one of the Beach Boys' biggest hits. Help Me, Rhonda.
What does Rhonda need to help you with?
Rhonda needs to help him get her out of his heart.
Yeah, but how?
That's a great question, and it's left very open to interpretation. Since I first listened to the song when I was like 5 or 6, it always just sounds like he needs a shoulder to cry on to me. He just needs someone to comfort him, someone to be there for him, somebody to be uplifting and a friend to him because our speaker has been left for another man. This woman left him in the dust, and he turns to Rhonda, who is, by the way, allegedly not based on a real person, for support.
Interesting. Or do we believe that?
That it's not based on a real person? I kind of do. I don't know. Al Jardine said, I'm sure there was something down there in the psychology of it. We didn't really get into the meaning of the lyrics. They spoke for themselves. And then Mike Love said, there are a lot of people, a lot of girls named Rhonda out there who have gotten remarks related to that song all their lives, which I believe. But I don't think there's a real person, a real Rhonda, because I just don't think it sounds too good in the song, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
And it doesn't help that the spelling of Rhonda changed.
Wait, what?
Yeah, on the initial release, it was Rhonda without an H.
Oh, it was... I don't know what I was going to say there.
Rhonda. It was Rhonda. R-O-N-D-A. But the reason they changed it, I mean, the name change came when they rearranged and redid some of the lyrics on the song to make a different single version in April of 1965. That's when they added in the H. And Help Me Rhonda with an H would be the Beach Boys' second #1 hit in the U.S.
Oh, well, that's number 2.
Mm-hmm. The lead vocals on this one are by Al Jardine, his second ever lead track. Brian said, I'd heard Al sing a lot, and I liked his voice. And what a statement, by the way. I'd heard Al sing a lot. Really? Do you think this guy you've been in a band with for 4 years and put out 7 albums with, you think you've heard him sing a lot? Okay. But Brian said, I'd heard Al sing a lot and I liked his voice. And I wanted to write a song for him that showed off the quality of his voice. And sure enough, I did. Big old pat on the back for himself there. Al said, I did have a hard time with it. I never tackled a lead much before. I was always interested in backgrounds. He said, Carl and I were always on the harmonies, but to take a lead was a big leap forward, and this was not an easy lead, to be honest with you. He said, I was happy that Brian asked me to sing the lead. Brian had this idea of how he wanted it, and I had an idea of how I heard it, and that's basically what you get. Surely you knew Help Me Rhonda, right?
Yeah.
Of course. That main hook, do-do-do-do-do-do-do, what a good hook. That one came when Brian was messing around with a shuffle beat from the song Mac the Knife by Bobby Darin. Biographer J.D. O'Regan said the uneven rhythm of that hook represents both the limping pain from the previous relationship and the heart-skipping feeling of new love. So I guess in that perspective, Rhonda is a new love. Not just a comforting friend, just a new prospect.
Oh, a new potential friend.
A new friend in italics. I think it's one of the most sing-songy songs on this album.
Yeah, it is. Definitely, for sure.
It's also the longest song on this album at an excruciating 3 minutes and 10 seconds.
Whoa, excruciating?
Man, just this so long. That's sarcasm.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, absolutely. Really strong harmonies, really strong everything. Also at the end, they do this weird thing with the volume where it goes away and then comes back. Very strange, but I guess they just liked it like that.
I just think I'm in a dancing mood.
Yeah, dancing, huh? Well, you're in the right place, because up next is Dance, Dance, Dance.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Do You Want to Dance and Dance, Dance, Dance.
Yeah, in my mind, for obvious reasons, like when I was a kid listening through the greatest hits, I always correlated this one to Do You Want to Dance, because they came very close together in the order, and they're very similar in their themes. You know, you're relieving stress through dance. After 6 hours of school, oh, the humanity. Hit the radio dial. You gotta dance. What a fat, bass hook at the beginning. And Jingle Bells. It's like bass and Jingle Bells that kick off Dance, Dance, Dance. And I don't know if there's anything the Beach Boys have ever done that's more dancey.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, it's fun. That is Carl Wilson's first crack at songwriting. He came up with the main riff and the guitar solo. And one thing about Dance, Dance, Dance that's really exciting is that the key change happens in the middle of the verse instead of the chorus or a bridge like most songs would do. They do a key change halfway through the verses, and I think it's awesome. And what a hit. I mean, it went to number 8 on the Hot 100. I don't know what stayed up above it, but it probably could have gone higher. There's something about the way they do dance, 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 and they kind of walk it up like that. That's just infectious.
Uh-huh. It's very infectious, for sure.
And, like Do You Want to Dance, it's also got a pretty sick guitar solo on there. Something we just did not see at all on Pet Sounds. It's a little more of that rock side of the Beach Boys that we didn't have. I think Dance, Dance, Dance is a great way to close out the upbeat songs side.
And then we move in to the downer side?
I don't know about downer. They're not all sad. They're just all slow.
Yeah, we're crashing from our party.
Oh.
You know, it's like when you've been at the beach all day and the sun really starts to get to you.
Oh, that kind of haze. Yeah, you're just sun drained. That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Well, Please Let Me Wonder is the first song on that side, and calling it a downer might not be inaccurate because it's the first song Brian Wilson wrote after discovering marijuana.
Oof.
Yeah, so it's kind of the beginnings of some of the drug-inspired songs that we saw a lot on Pet Sounds, right? With Hang On to Your Ego, or I Know There's an Answer. He gets way more into it, but Please Let Me Wonder is kind of the start of dipping his toe in that. It's a good song. Like, the speaker is so afraid of rejection that he doesn't want to know one way or another whether his crush likes him. Let me wonder, so I never have to know for sure. If I don't know, I can at least pretend. And funny enough, Please Let Me Wonder came out as a single on the day after Valentine's Day, 1965.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good timing for a song about unrequited love. And it's also kind of a precursor to the intense orchestration and super varied instrumentation they get onto later. Like, this track has guitars and pianos and organs and horns and timpanis and vibraphones and tambourines. Like, it's definitely a lot more than a little band of surf rock boys that used to exist. They've definitely expanded on Please Let Me Wonder. How do the harmonies hold up on this ballad for you? Do they help it?
Yeah, it definitely helped it. Yeah, so far, I'm liking this album a lot more than I remember liking Pet Sounds.
Okay, that was, of course, the goal.
That is, of course, the goal. We are getting, kind of alluded to it. I do think the album's a little top heavy. I don't know why they would have put all the fast tracks on one half and all the slow tracks on the other. Why would you want to mix them all up so you got a good pace?
It's a great question.
I think that the album suffers a little bit from that. And we're not there yet, obviously, but we will be there.
Well, this is the first track out of like 5 that are going to be slow and in the same vein.
Yeah.
And so it does start to feel like you've taken a dive into a pool of syrup at some point. The album does just slow down rapidly. I think it makes sense if you're thinking about a physical record, because sometimes you just want to listen to the fast songs. And then you've got one side of all fast songs, and when it's done, you don't have to put on the other side.
Yeah, you're right. Back then, when you didn't have the ability to put together your own playlists and shuffle on Spotify and stuff like that, it probably would make a little more sense to do that, so you could listen to whatever Beach Boys you're in the mood for.
Yeah.
So I'll give them that. It's a fair point I hadn't considered.
Well, there you go. I do think Please Let Me Wonder is one of the strongest ballads on this album. Just the concept is really great. And per Brian's memory, he said, I wrote that at my apartment in West Hollywood, and as soon as I finished, I felt I had to record it. So I called up my engineer, Chuck Britz, and I woke him up. Please Let Me Wonder was recorded at 3:30 in the morning.
Whoa.
I drove to the studio in the middle of the night and recorded it. At least a demo version of it.
Had the munchies.
He must have. Those 3:30 in the morning munchies. Also, he improvised that I Love You at the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he came up with that all by himself. Up next is a cover, I'm So Young, not a Beach Boys song.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Pet Sounds was all originals, if I remember right. But it's interesting to hear how they take these covers and Beach Boyify them to sound just like Beach Boys songs. They might as well have written this, as far as it sounds. The original was by a band called The Students in 1958, and songwriter Prez Tyus was just in high school when he wrote I'm So Young, which is so impressive. He was so young. It's a cool doo-woppy kind of ballad, and it's a thematic echo of Pet Sounds, Wouldn't It Be Nice, right? It's the same song. If we were older, we could get married. But here, I'm so young, I can't marry no one. It's a lament. In the same way that Wouldn't It Be Nice looks forward, I'm So Young is the same sentiment looking at the present. It also feels very on par with When I Grew Up to Be a Man, but from a relationship angle instead of I don't want to be a boring square.
This song made me laugh when it started.
Yeah?
Just the, I have a girlfriend.
Yeah, you don't know her. She goes to another school.
She says I'm her only one.
It's like a nice establishing shot. It is very out of place with the rest of the song. I just think it's funny. You're right. Nothing about this song can be implied. All the lyrics, 1958, different era for songwriting, but all these lyrics are very straightforward.
If you implied anything, heck, even if you weren't trying to imply something, people sometimes accuse you of implying things and then ban your songs.
That's very true. But no one knows your heart's direction. We want to get married, but we're so young. It's just so straightforward.
I also imagine in that scenario that it's we're 6. It's like 2 kids on the school playground.
I don't think they're 6. The second verse is about him going off to sea.
Yeah, can't do that when you're 6.
Well, you could go off to sea when you're 6, I guess, but it's not normal. That's not normally the way it's done. But they are called the Beach Boys.
It's not what most 6-year-olds do.
So yeah, the whole song's pretty much a cover, except the outro, which is from the mind of Brian Wilson. That's not in the original, but it is very similar to the rest of the song, so that's cool. Up next, we have the B-side to Help Me, Rhonda, Kiss Me, Baby. That whole single it's verb me, comma, other person.
Yeah.
Help Me, Rhonda, Kiss Me, Baby. Two very similar titles on both sides of your record. This one, the relationship's in a tough spot and he's desperately trying to fix things. That's what the song's all about. But wow, this song came from a weird place. Brian was inspired to write Kiss Me Baby while he was walking around Copenhagen's red light district just after getting engaged. So that's interesting. And Kiss Me Baby has the unique distinction of being the only song on Today that was recorded in part before and in part after Brian's major nervous breakdown. This song kind of straddles that event.
I liked the vibe of Kiss Me Baby.
Yeah, it's got a good pulse to it.
And this, I would say, if I had to pick one song on this album to be you want to know what the Beach Boys harmonies are all about?
Yes.
It might be Kiss Me Baby.
Yeah, the harmonies especially on this song stood out to critics and fans and historians. This is as good as it gets. They're just dripping and so full and intricate.
Yeah, dripping.
And there's just so many good chord decisions in here. Brian Wilson's songwriting is so good. And I don't think enough people talk about the Beach Boys today for as good as their songwriting was. I think he just makes songs that are incredible, but maybe too good for the audience that was trying to consume them.
Wow, one of those people. You just don't have the ability to appreciate the music.
No, I just don't think people did. I mean, obviously people do now, but
But at the time?
Yeah. If I'm a teenager and I put on a Beach Boys album, I don't think I appreciate the melodies and the harmonies and so much as I appreciate the lyrics and the messaging. I think my focus is in the wrong place. And it's impressive. It's a testament to the Beach Boys that they can do so many complex things so seamlessly, so naturally. I don't know. Just all these things that they're writing would struggle on today's pop radio. And yet they were the biggest thing in the world in 1965. So we've been in a bit of a slowdown for these first three tracks on the other side. She Knows Me Too Well, I think, is almost fast enough that it could be on the first side of the record if you wanted it to be.
Yeah, probably. I just had to go click on it to double check that.
Yeah. It's slower, but it's not slow. It's a classic mid-60s jealous boyfriend who's trying to figure out how to treat a girl right. I just don't understand. This is what I mean. Brian Wilson writes all these songs, and his relationship songs often turn out like this. I treat her so mean. I don't deserve what I have, but she knows me so well I can't make her forget. But she can tell that I really love her, even though I'm very mean and awful to her. So that's great. I get so jealous, and I make her cry, but she knows that I love her. When I look at other girls, it must kill her inside, but she knows that I love her.
I look at other girls so that you know I love you.
Babe, I'm doing this for you.
I'm doing this for us.
For us. This is for us. Right. It's all of his relationship songs kind of have that undertone to them, or a lot of them do, and you're like, what? What is this song? I don't know. Okay, man. She Knows Me Too Well was the first track they attempted to record for Today, but they ended up redoing it later. There's a unique percussion sound in here that you can hear.
Yeah? What's it? When they banging on sand?
They're not banging on sand. That wouldn't really make a tink.
Maybe some snad?
No. They're not banging on snad.
I'm over here snad banging.
What they did was they used a screwdriver and they tapped it against the mic arm. Again, foreshadowing Pet Sounds and their weird instrumental techniques. In fact, it's so much of a foreshadowing of Pet Sounds. Writer David Leaf said, She Knows Me Too Well is another of the important musical developments on the road to Pet Sounds. And in retrospect, hearing this in 1965 might have felt very strange. Almost like you were hearing a cut from Pet Sounds a year before that album even existed. Which is, again, just another reason I wanted to go for Today. It's a precursor, it's a foreshadowing, it's a step in the evolution from Surfin' USA Beach Boys to Caroline No Beach Boys. It's nice. She Knows Me Too Well is a really good song. It's probably one of my favorites on the back half.
Kiss Me Baby, I think is that for me.
Okay. I just really like that interjection that she knows me. That's a really fun little piece, a little dynamic to the song.
It's no, she's my girlfriend, or I have a girlfriend.
You're right. Combine them. I've got a girlfriend, and she knows me.
But she doesn't know that she's my girlfriend.
Oops, that's a problem. That's we're getting into Please Let Me Wonder territory there, too. Man. Well, She Knows Me Too Well did go to number 101 on the Billboard charts. Sounds like it stayed just clear of the Hot 100, but that's pretty good, though. That's more songs than I've ever had in the Billboard number 101 position.
Yet.
The Beach Boys once told me, never say never. Well, you told me that about the Beach Boys, but same difference. The last of the songs emphasis on songs on this album, is In the Back of My Mind. Another relationship song just twinged with doubt and overthinkingness. Trademark Brian Wilson stuff. This relationship is great, but man, there is a lingering doubt. Like, it's just in the back of his mind. He just can't shake it. I still have my fears. I live my life with her, and I love her, and she knows it, and I'm afraid it's going to change. I tried to run far away from my thoughts, but they just keep coming back to me. It's just like a paranoid kind of song. But it sounds so sweet. He makes these really, like, tough songs sound really gentle and sweet.
They are gentle and sweet. Mm-hmm. Unless you listen to the lyrics.
Yeah, right.
Just turn your brain off and listen.
Yeah, then it sounds really nice. If you just do that and you ignore the lyrics, you're going to hear more funky instruments like saxophones and oboes. They tried to base In the Back of My Mind on Tin Pan Alley style pop songs that were really popular. We've talked about a good bunch of those. And I think it succeeds. It does feel a little out of place for that. It doesn't feel like a typical Beach Boys song in a lot of ways. But it's also a super interesting arrangement because it has asynchronous instrumentation at the end and such. 6/8 time, the whole 9 yards. How did you feel about the ending? Like that 2 minutes where the instruments are all asynchronous and just kind of doing a big wash at the end?
Well, it doesn't last long enough to really... Like, it fades out so fast.
Yeah. Well, you got to keep the song under 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Come on.
That is true. Can't have a 2 minute and 13-second track.
No, gosh. Unless it's most of the other songs on this album. But not all of them, by any means. Also interesting, they did 40 takes of In the Back of My Mind. 40. And it's a good thing, because the one that they used as the master was the 39th take. So you just never know. You just never know when you're going to get the right one. And just like he got to open the album, Dennis gets to close the album, and he sings lead here. So this whole album is just a Brian Wilson sandwich and a little bit of a Mike Love sandwich on Dennis Wilson bread. But is the album over yet?
No, we got to listen to them order french fries and get a cheese sandwich. And
That's right. We have to talk about the Bull Session with Big Daddy.
Dude, I thought about calling you Big Daddy all episode.
I'm so glad you decided not to do that.
In my notes from listening to this, I was like, should I call him Big Daddy the whole time?
No, I would have edited around it. I would have bleeped it. I would have done something. And then when everyone got to this part, they would have heard and understood all the bleeps. That would have been a Bull Session, for sure. This song track, not even a song, this track is probably the album's biggest blemish. It's a fake interview track. Journalist Earl Leaf moderates this little discussion where they talk about sandwiches, and they talk about the band's latest touring and how Brian Wilson hasn't made a mistake yet in his whole career. Mr. Hates Talking on Albums, how did you feel about the Bull Session?
Oh, I hated it.
I know you did, and I'm sorry.
Until I started listening to the lyrics, and then I was like, okay, I'm kind of here for it. Just them talking about onions and like from an album standpoint, I hated it.
Of course.
From a listening to it standpoint, it was pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, get this. The original version is 10 times this long.
That's awful.
It's awful. It's a 20-minute raw recording that they chopped down to what I hope was the best 2 minutes. And here it is. Authors have said that it is the most pointless thing in the band's discography, and some wondered why it was included at all. And I agree. Why put it here? Mike Love said Bull Session with Big Daddy is pretty silly. It's just a bunch of young guys experiencing a lot of success, and we're just relieving stress, not concentrating on releasing a hit. Obviously, it's a song where you're just talking. But he said, we're just having a little fun in the studio. It may have occurred to us this will be enough to complete an album that if we record this, we can turn the album in. But I think it was just a way to lighten the mood. So it's not even like they tried to use it as a filler. They just wanted to.
I mean, fair enough. Honestly, it's their album. If they really wanted to, go for it.
Uh-huh. Talking about cooking the lamb and putting its raw head back on. I don't know. It's a wild one. They have at least one other track that is just full-on dialogue like this, but it is rare. I think it is the one, again, major blemish on Today as an album. I think if there was one thing about this album you'd probably have a problem with, in a big way, it's Bull Session, of course. But yeah, also fun and worth noting, kind of teased it a while ago, there were 2 songs that the Beach Boys ditched for the album. One was called All Dressed Up for School, that they cut because they said audiences weren't ready for it or couldn't handle it or something. And then the other one was a song called Guess I'm Dumb that nobody wanted to sing because nobody wanted to call themselves dumb. So they passed it along to country musician Glenn Campbell, the Rhinestone Cowboy.
Yeah.
Future Rhinestone Cowboy, as I've recently been informed. They pretty much put him on the map and discovered him. So there you have it. That is the Beach Boys today. A solid shot at redemption, I think, if ever there could be one. For me, I thought the Beach Boys Today was a fun album. I love seeing the stepping stone in their evolution. I liked getting context for 3 of my favorite Beach Boys songs of all time. And I think it's just a neat spot to see how the album is starting to evolve as an art form in the mid-60s. That's great. Brian's songwriting is developing. Other people get to sing leads on this album. It's pretty nice. I'm giving the music in 86. Brian Wilson truly stands alone. He's got a lot of good moments here. Now, there's some draggy moments. Making the back half all slow songs was an interesting choice. I don't hate it as much as Connor seems to dislike it. And, it's good. There's some songs like Don't Hurt My Little Sister, Kiss Me Baby, a few of those that I think musically aren't my favorites, but 86 is a pretty strong music score. Given the lyrics in 83, I think the lyrics on Pet Sounds, it's hard not to be comparative in this case where we're doing an episode where we're comparing them. Pet Sounds lyrics about leaving the past behind and growing up fully feel a lot stronger, I think, than the Beach Boys Today, where the lyrics are kind of, yeah, I'm still young and I'm so young and I want to grow up and I'm working on it. There's still like another echelon of maturity that the band is working towards lyrically. The love songs, classic Beach Boys content, right? The self-deprecating or like underlying fear and overthinkingness. It's there, it's classic. Do you want to dance, 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 dance? There's some fun songs to lighten the mood. 83 on the lyrics, 84 on instruments and production. It's a good sounding album. It's an album that sounds a little old now, but at the time it was ahead of its time. I love the wall of sound style on Do You Want to Dance? I love that they're starting to experiment with unique instruments like screwdrivers on microphones. Getting session musicians involved in the LA Wrecking Crew is a classic. So an 84 there, and also an 84 for the vibe. I think it's a strong album. I think, honestly, track for track, I do think Pet Sounds was better. I think I'd put punch for punch in every way, listening to Pet Sounds earlier today also. It's just such a different listening experience. But if you're looking for a more traditional Beach Boys sound and style, but like evolved past the almost substanceless teeny bop pop from the early days, Today is a great place to look. So an 84 there. That gives the album an overall score of 85.5.
Okay.
Which is worse than Pet Sounds, which got an 89.4.
Which you alluded to at the beginning.
I did. That's true. And I alluded to it here also. But more than alluded, I just said it. But on the ranking spreadsheet, an 85.5 is going to put the Beach Boys Today at number 351.
Wow.
Which is above Traveler by Chris Stapleton. And it's below Ladylike by Ingrid Andress.
That's weird.
That does not feel right, does it? But it is wedged in between country albums. Very different country albums at that. So that's the Beach Boys Today for me. Not quite redemption, but I obviously gave Pet Sounds. I mean, it's my current 127th ranked album, so it didn't really need much redeeming from me. The real question is Today enough to redeem the Beach Boys for you?
Yeah, for me, top 3 in album order. The only way to do it. Do You Want to Dance?
Do you?
I think I'm just a dancing guy.
I think so.
I like Dance the Night Away by Dua Lipa.
That's not Dua Lipa.
Who is that?
Well, Dua Lipa did Dance the Night from the Barbie movies.
That's what I'm thinking of.
But Dance the Night Away makes me think of On the Floor.
No, I'm thinking of...
Which is by Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah, that's not what I'm thinking.
You're thinking Dance the Night from Barbie.
Get out of here.
Okay, you're right. Sorry. Anyway, just confusing.
I think I'm going honorable mention next to Help Me Rhonda.
Oh, help me get her out of my heart.
I just like the funky beat.
Help me, Conda.
No, enough of that.
Okay. Well,
then we'll go down to Dance, Dance, Dance.
This is your honorable mention. What do you want from me?
And finally, Kiss Me Baby.
I knew it. I knew that would be the one once we got past Dance, Dance, Dance. No surprises. Pretty good top 3.
So that's my top 3. Yeah.
Only 2 of them that you knew before?
Yeah. And I think I'm torn.
Uh-oh.
I'm torn between Dance, Dance, Dance and Kiss Me Baby for playlist.
Ooh.
I think I'm going to go Dance, Dance, Dance. It's just too much fun.
I see. It is too much fun.
I'd love to take Kiss Me Baby, but I just don't think it's not something like I was thinking like if I'm listening to the playlist on shuffle and that popped on, it might in certain situations be a bit of a mood killer. Whereas I think Dance, Dance, Dance is always going to be a mood upper, not a mood downer.
That's true.
So yeah, that's we'll go with there.
Okay. Well, my playlist pick in conjunction with that, I'm back and forth between Do You Want to Dance and Help Me Rhonda, but we can't take both the dance songs.
Yes, we can.
So I'm going to take Help Me Rhonda.
Okay, I'm okay with that. It's one of my top 3.
It's also one of their biggest hits, and one that I knew going into this album. Just such a good song.
Makes me wish I picked Kiss Me Baby, though, so then we had the A-side, B-side of the same slot.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think this is probably the most commas per song we've had in our playlist picks.
Oh, we've had a lot of commas. We haven't given it a Spin It award in a long time. Should we give them the comma Spin It award?
Maybe. We got 2 in Dance 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 and 1 in Help Me Rhonda.
Does the Beach Boys have a Spin It award?
We did give them the Most Likely to Be Mauled by a Tiger award from their first episode.
So maybe they shouldn't get another. I mean, are they really too Spin It award worthy? I don't think so.
I don't know.
For the moment that we've all been waiting for, the whole reason we're here.
Yes.
Have the Beach Boys been redeemed? In the answer, drumroll please. Yes!
Yes! Oh, I knew it.
Kinda. Kinda.
Kinda.
Yeah. This did better than Pet Sounds,
Okay.
but it still did not get out of the 6s.
Really? I'm shocked. That's no redemption at all.
Well, it did better.
Do you think the Beach Boys are just a 6 band from the album tracks? Like, do you think the Beach Boys are only a hits band for you?
I think they're a 9 singles group, but yeah, their albums. Here's the problem. I'm a little miffed with your pick.
Okay.
So we talked about how we feel like I like older Beach Boys versus their newer style that Pet Sounds is.
Well, this doesn't have anything that's like Pet Sound style on it.
No, but this is like as we kind of talked about, an album where they're trying to transition out of that old style.
That's true.
So I feel like you should have picked something that was like solidly in the older Beach Boys style, just to like give me a taste of that. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't like the older Beach Boys as much, you know. But
well, I did consider. I kicked around All Summer Long and Little Deuce Coupe and albums like that. But I mean, just every ranking of Beach Boys albums you'll ever find has those pretty low down. And today, like sometimes even higher than Pet Sounds.
yeah, probably.
Like that author called it the quintessential LP.
The problem is, maybe I'm not an older Beach Boys fan. I don't know. I'm looking at like the songs I like by them, right? They're big stuff, and they're all on different albums. I just don't know if the Beach Boys are an album band for me. I think they're a singles band for me.
They might be.
They're just too spread out and too far in between. But it did do better than Pet Sounds. Like, this was an improvement, and I'm very excited to go listen to Pet Sounds again, and then we'll pop back in here and put in a note about it, and then I'll do homework ahead of time for future Redemption episodes. But if I had to guess, I think after listening to Pet Sounds again, I'm going to want to drop it to a 5, which is why I still say this is actually technically a Redemption.
Wow.
It scored higher than Pet Sounds, and I have a feeling Pet Sounds would drop if we were to do it today. Because again, those first like 50, the first year was all about really setting the scale, right? So
Yeah.
I think Pet Sounds would probably drop.
That's remarkable. Well, don't forget to listen to the stereo mix.
Yeah. It's not like a full redemption. It's not what you wanted. I know you wanted to go from like a 6 to like an 8 or a 9, right?
Yeah, I was pretty sure the Beach Boys would be an easy, like, strong redemption to kick off the year.
Well, you're going to have to try harder as we get deeper into the year.
I guess so.
So it's getting 6 Pags of Snad out of 10.
Pags of Snad?
Pags of Snad.
6 tons.
Yeah, I wish I could give it 8.
6 tons of Snad. Pags.
It's a lot of Snad.
We had a lot of typos in there then.
Yeah.
Instead of bags, we said pags, and instead of sand, we said snad. 6 bags of sand. No.
Pags of Snad.
Awful. Wow. Well, where in the 6s does it go?
Yeah, it's going to go right above Apoptosis by Inner... No, actually, it's going to go right below Apoptosis by Inner Wave.
Oh, still beating out Rush.
Yeah, and Dance Gavin Dance.
And still below some other artists that we're going to maybe try and redeem this year. Interesting.
Sorry, Beach Boys. You're a 6 for me. If you consider the fact that I raised your score a little bit of redemption, congrats. If not...
It's interesting, too, because you even said in the Beach Boys episode, you kind of left it on a cliffhanger, whether it would be in your 6s or your 5s, whether it was going to be the bottom of your 6s or the top of your 5s. And you said it didn't sit right with you to put it at the bottom of your 6s, but you couldn't bring yourself to give it a 5.
Yeah, but now my heart has grown cold.
Sad.
There's plenty of stuff that would still be below it in the 5s, and I got 4s and 3s and 2s and 1s. So never giving a 0.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine?
That'd be pretty rough. Be pretty bad.
Give me a whole album
of Bull Sessions.
Yeah, give me a whole album of Bull Sessions, and you might get a 0 out of me.
That'd be something. Okay, I have a new goal. Well, that's remarkable. Yeah, this was a surprising episode. Didn't turn out like I expected at all. Really?
At all. Factor spin, the score.
Yeah. But it was so fun.
I think the only silver lining for you was the unit.
I think the concept of the Year of Redemption is what made this episode fun. The possibilities and the comparison to see how this album lined up with the other one, ways that we liked it better or worse.
Yeah.
And it's cool just to track the evolution of a band over the course of a couple episodes. And really the evolution of the podcast over the course of a couple years. There's the podcast is twice as old as the amount of time between today and Pet Sounds.
That's crazy.
That's wild. But anyway, that's going to do it for our episode and the beginning of year 5.
Wow.
Hope you like it. Hope you stick around for more redemption in the future. Again, not going to be every episode, but we're going to sprinkle them in. Like we're a cupcake or ice cream or a donut or a Brussels sprout.
Or a Brussels sprout. I wondered if you were going to bring that back.
If you want to find us and follow us to see more of what we're up to, you can find us on Instagram at SpinItPodOfficial, on X at SpinItPod, and on our website, www.spinitpod.com. And you can email the Mixtaper at spinitpod.com, with your facts and spins. He can't reply to you, but he can receive your emails, rest assured.
Indeed. Tell a friend about the podcast. As always, best way for podcasts to grow is by word of mouth. So go out there and find a friend who you would give the trophy Friend Champion King of 2025.
Oh, your Champion King friend. That's really great. Or Champion Queen friend. Or Champion Jester friend.
Ooh, Jester friend? You're my Champion Jester friend of 2025.
Oh, you're my Jest friend. JFF. Jester friend forever.
Aww. What Jeff?
I've got a Jester friend.
I've got a Jester friend.
We'll see you next week, and until then,
keep spinning.
I can't believe we still haven't raced any pigeons.
Oh, by the time this episode comes out, hopefully it'll be here. I ordered something.
What?
It didn't make it here in time for that.
No, what you get? Did you get a pigeon merch?
I might have a little runway, like drag race style, and a bunch of wind-up pigeons that I was going to make a stupid little racing video out of for this episode.
Oh my.
So we'll see if I can cobble that together.
That'll be for the Beach Boys Redemption episode.
Yeah.
In another 200 something. I guess it's only been 180.
But I mean, if you're serious about wanting to race pigeons, I've got the pamphlet right here.
Don't forget your diplomas.
Wouldn't it be nice to race some pigeons?
Wouldn't it be nice to race some pigeons?
With my best friend Jeff and bags of snad.
So dumb.
Alright, we're done here.
Okay, hey, we're back after the outro music, which has never happened before, actually.
Yeah, whoa.
Yeah, we're back because Connor listened to Pet Sounds and has updates.
I did. I have updates.
Your first go at Pet Sounds was a 6. How was the re-listen all these years later?
Yeah, well, we mentioned in the episode I thought my ability to, I forget exactly, I said my taste have evolved.
Yeah.
Over the last however many episodes.
180 between Beach Boys, I think.
Yeah, I would maybe rank Pet Sounds differently. And I stand by that.
You stand by where you put Pet Sounds, or you stand by that you would rank it differently now?
I stand by that I would rank it differently now.
Okay.
I think I was a little too critical of Pet Sounds.
Oh, what a hopeful turn. Redemption for Pet Sounds.
Redemption for Pet Sounds after all. Not quite the way we thought, but here it is.
Well, would it just be a higher 6, or are we talking like a full number bump?
It'd be really funny if I just moved it up.
Just redeemed it all to a 6. Come on. Please.
Oh, that would have been so funny. No, specifically, I found myself liking the title track, Pet Sounds, more than I remembered liking it.
Yeah.
I also, of course, wanted it to be nice. I knew I was gonna still like, right?
Yes.
But then we hit You Still Believe in Me, and I was like, wait, this is not what I remember.
Yeah. Did you listen to the stereo mix?
Yes, this is the stereo mix, and I think it does maybe resolve a lot of my complaints about the first one. So,
Wow.
mono probably still a 6. That's not me. I was humming along. I was singing along to That's Not Me like the rest of the evening.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would actually put Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys probably a really high 7 today.
High 7 is a huge redemption.
Yeah, from a low 6 to a high 7.
So does that mean that we just unredeemed the Beach Boys today?
I think we should just look at it as we redeemed the Beach Boys, just not in the way we thought we would.
You're right. This was what a change. Wow.
Because I wouldn't have gone back and listened to this to redeem it had we not done this episode.
It makes me wonder about every other album we've ever done. A little bit.
I think I stand by most of them.
Yeah, probably.
There's a couple I drop.
No.
Kanye West.
Kanye West.
But yeah, so there you go, Beach Boys. Have your redemption after all.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's so exciting. Wow. Well, I don't know how to end it, so...
Goodbye!